And all I can tell you is that he's more real than you are. This whole thing we think is reality is a purple crayon on the back of a bar napkin. This is some crusty old black and white CinemaScope celluloid thing from, I don't know, 1930s. This is nothing compared to what's really real. The colors and the smells and the flavors and all of it. I've never done a drug in my life. I've never pick one. Mushrooms, marijuana, anything, nothing ever. I've never been drunk. I've never been on antidepressants or antipsychotics or anything except a hay fever medicine. This was not a product of my imagination. This was not a dream. It was not a vision. I was wide awake. And it was more real than this is. And I have my hands on his feet, and I'm crying. He says, put your thumbs in the hole. And there's a hole in his ankle, and I don't want to. I don't want to. Oh, Lord, I don't want to. He says, do it. I roll my hand up, and I'm crying, and I feel the hole in his ankle. And he says, stand up. I don't want to. Lord, I don't want to. And he's being real patient. And he bends over, grabs me by the armpit, and stands me up. And I still got my head trying to suck my head into my body like a turtle. Eyes closed as tight as I possibly can, and I'm still seeing him out the top of my head. He's so bright. Wearing a white robe. And he takes my hand and he sticks it in a fold in the robe and puts it on the scar in his side. And I feel the skin and the hair and the scar, the hole, and crying and crying and crying. I had prayed for a lot at that point. Fasted without food and water a lot. Probably 200 days out of that year before that. To see through the eyes of Jesus. To have wisdom. To help bear his burden. To be used however he wanted. To give up whatever he asked of me. For wisdom. And I'm standing there crying. He holds his hands out. Says, hold my hands, and I don't want to. He grabs my hands, puts my hands in his, and says, feel the hole. And I slide my hand up his arm and feel the hole in his wrist. Put my thumb in the hole, and I'm crying and crying and crying. And all the while, just asking him to go and saying, I'm sorry for ever asking. And he takes my hand and puts it on the side of his face. And I can feel beard hairs and skin and everything. More real than you are. And he's standing, that far away. To where I'm not reaching way out. I've got my hand against his face. And he says, don't be afraid. In a way that lets you know that he's about to do something that will terrify you. And you will instantly be afraid, and you have every right to be afraid, and he's telling you not to, because whatever he's about to do is going to make you afraid. So it just makes me more afraid. But I want to be obedient. So I'm trying to just stand there and wait and see what he's going to do. And he takes a step toward me. Okay, now, he's in my buffer zone. Now you're getting a little close. He says, don't be afraid. Which, of course, makes me more afraid. Or at least I think, I should be way, way more afraid. And he takes another step toward me like he's going to headbutt me or kiss me straight on. And says, don't be afraid. And I hear my heart racing, pounding, 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 pounding. And he leads in, and right when I feel like he's going to headbutt me, his head goes into my head, and I hear his heartbeat. No problem. Boom, boom. At mine. And he takes another step and steps in, and I'm standing there. I hear the heartbeats. I hear my heartbeat slow down to his, and I know everything. And I am in the mind of Christ. And I see the whole panorama of creation as if it's all done, and there's a new heaven and a new earth. The judgments are over. And it's perfect. I can't tell you who got into heaven and who didn't. I can't tell you what the New Jerusalem looks like. I can't tell you anything except all that I could contain at that moment was an awareness that it was all perfect. That all of creation for eternity would sit with its mouth open, marveling at how God tied it all up with a bow, and everything was just. There was nothing left out. There was an explanation for everything, and it made perfect sense. And it had to be that way. And it was fair, and it was right, and it was just, and it was good. Every kid in Africa that died of AIDS, every person that was raped or molested or hurt or whatever, somehow, beyond my capacity to understand, it was all part of the plan. And it was all necessary. And it was all tied up with a bow. And justice was served on those who did wrong. And mercy on those who needed mercy. And it was perfect. Perfect. No string untied. Nothing left undone. Perfect. And I couldn't process anything but that. And I stood there and I marveled and I cried. I said, oh God, I had no idea. Everything is part of the plan. It's perfect. And I don't know if it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour. But I knew everything. Couldn't retain it, couldn't process it, couldn't whatever. But I saw the end, and it was perfect. Perfectly just, perfectly righteous. Nobody could argue. Nobody could say I was done wrong and justice wasn't meted out, or I shouldn't be here in the lake of fire, or anything. Even people that were in heaven and didn't think they deserved it, the Lord would show them. Everybody could see the whole thing, and everybody knew. All of creation knew and marveled at how good the Father is, how perfect his plans, how much he knew the end from the beginning, how every butterfly, every speck of dust, every little dog, everything was part of the plan.